Hey everyone, welcome to History 410, History of Diet and Health. I'm Fred Gibbs, Associate Professor in the History Department. I will be your guide for the next month or so. This class is not about me, but brief introduction. I'm a historian of science and medicine. My main research area is in the history of diet and health. So this class is perfectly centered in the stuff I love to read about it. I geek out about it too much. Sorry, I get carried away. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. I think the material, the history of diet is just really fascinating as a window onto culture and how it changes over time and how we think about bodies and health and diets and dietary advice and expertise, all these good things. So I'm excited to share this stuff with you for the next month. The course is titled History of Diet and Health, obviously, but actually the way I think of it is diet, health, and expertise. And I don't think you can really think very carefully about or critically about diet and health without thinking about the nature of expertise and how people tell us things about diet. And this is true whether you're talking about 1,000 years ago or yesterday or 100 years from now. People build up credibility, they build up authority and expertise. And we believe them or not based on various factors. And that is, I think, as much a part of studying and understanding diet and health as anything else. And we'll get into that right away in the course in the first week, and it kind of runs throughout. But that nature of expertise is really fundamental. And I think it's a really timely topic too, because artificial intelligence, the way you can get very confident sounding, expert sounding results from a very non-expert thing, but a very knowledgeable language model, is really fascinating. So I think we have new questions about the nature of expertise emerging in our society today. And I think looking at the history of diet and health and history of other things too, of course, but I think that really makes it easier for understand some of the questions that are arising. We're talking about the history of diet and health, but the history is a means to an end. If you learn anything about the history of diet and the history of health, that's great, but it really is a means to an end. And the end is much broader themes that I want to enumerate here. One is the process of knowledge production. How do we study something like how food affects the body? When you think about all the different varieties of food, I mean, even one kind of food like blueberries, there's lots of kinds of blueberries. They grow in different places. They have different nutrient qualities, not radically different, but they're all a little different. There's so many bodies in the world. There's so many gut biomes in the world. We eat blueberries with lots of different kinds of food that affects how it affects our body. It's really, really hard to study this stuff. But yet we also have to take that knowledge, that research, that biochemical, invisible research, and translate it into useful, practical, everyday advice. And I think that's super interesting. Like, how does that process work? Turns out that process has always been happening, not with our technology and so on, but that process of creating authority, creating expertise, creating knowledge has always been happening. That's what science is about. The history of science and medicine is just as much about the social processes as it is the actual information about the world that we're learning. And so looking at the history of diet and health is a great way to study this process of knowledge production. So that's theme number one. Number two is the social construction of authority, which is to say that there's no objective information about the world, whether it's science, chemistry, biology, diet, physics, whatever. There's no objective information that we're discovering. Okay, there's information that we're saying this is true, this is not as true, this is whatever. It's all on kind of a spectrum, but we create the processes that decide what is true knowledge. We decide who gets to claim knowledge exists. We get to decide who is an authority, who we believe. And that's a very social process. And we can see that people giving dietary advice over the centuries, they've had all kinds of different agendas about, why you should eat a certain way, sometimes religious, sometimes moral, sometimes environmental. There's lots of different motivations. And we see this changing over time, right? Who's considered an authority based on the kind of values they have and whether they're shared in a larger societal way. So studying the history of diet gets us a really great insight into the social construction of authority, how we as a society and different societies do this a little differently, empower some people as experts and worth believing. And the third main theme I want to cover here is how I hope we can gain a better perspective on contemporary knowledge about diet and health, and in fact, all information, by thinking about historically how things have changed over time, what stayed the same, and why changes have happened. So imagine you're in an airplane. You look down, you see this landscape. You have a really different perspective of it, like fundamentally different than if you're on the ground, right? You just see so much more. So this is kind of what we're doing to think about diet and health. Instead of just looking at dietary advice and health advice and definitions of healthy that are around us every day, we're going in the plane. But instead of looking down at the ground, we're looking at history. So we're seeing this really broad landscape of how people have defined healthy food, healthy bodies. My current research now is on the history of natural diets and how people over the last 200 years have defined what constitutes a natural diet. It's fascinating, the weird stuff they come up with. Weird by our standards, made perfect sense at the time, but you can see everyone's got all these different definitions, agendas, and different values that kind of bubble up into the advice we get about food because it's something we do every day. So people with power to influence what we eat have a lot of power because we're constantly doing that. It has environmental consequences, has health consequences, has economic consequences. It's really kind of more powerful than you might think, which is why it's a $1 trillion industry, dietary supplements and foods and diet plans and health gurus and all that kind of stuff. It sort of affects our lives more than you might think. Just eating food, right? It seems like such a banal everyday thing, but it turns out it affects all kinds of stuff and we don't even notice. But I think we have a much better understanding of contemporary diet and health culture, better understanding of medicine, medical culture, science by looking historically and seeing how these things have changed over time and getting those very foreign ideas about diet and health and using those to help understand what we're seeing now. And most importantly, this class it's about diet, right? But I hope the skills, the techniques, the analysis, the arguments, the kind of stuff that I'm asking you to do, the kind of stuff you see in the readings, I hope you can take that way outside of this class and apply it to everything you read, any field, right? There's nothing really unique about diet. I think it's a fun topic, but the skills we're doing in this class, really, I hope you can take and apply to any kind of knowledge that you're interested in. Okay, those are the main themes I hope that sort of emerged from the course. They're not really written down anywhere else, so I wanted to take a minute to say them here. Now, I just want to take a few minutes, if you'll allow me, to cover a couple items on the syllabus. I'm not going to read it to you. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a guide. So let me bring up the syllabus here. Okay, where is it? I think I'm in the syllabus now. Here's the home page for the syllabus. One thing I want to emphasize, you've already noticed this, but I just want to be very explicit. We use Canvas just to submit work. That's it. All the assignments are in Canvas. It's mostly discussion board posts. There's a couple other things. And you'll be graded there. You can always see your grade and what's going on in Canvas. But that's it. There's no other course materials. Not even the syllabus is in Canvas. It's on a separate thing. But that's it. So the whole course really happens on these two pages here. There's a home page for the syllabus, which you've seen has kind of got all the rules, logistics, that kind of stuff. And then there's a schedule page, which day to day, this is what you're going to use basically every day of the course, including today. This has everything you need to know for that day, what's going on. Okay, just a couple points to highlight from here. Student learning outcomes. You see these on all your syllabi. You probably ignore them. I think they're super important. Everything we do in this class, the assignments, the videos, the little notes in the syllabus, the readings, the exercises, the activities, the homework, everything is really about these things. We talked a second ago, or I talked a second ago. I wish you could talk. That'd be way more fun. The three main themes for the course that kind of relate to these things, but the student learning outcomes, these are things I hope you can do or do much better at the end of the course. And so I just want to say a little bit about what I mean by these. Describe how ideas of health have been historically constructed culturally and scientifically. It's kind of a fancy way of saying there's no objective, true definition of health. There's just no absolute objective idea of health. We make it up, and it's changed a lot over time. That's what this course is about, how the ideas of health, healthy bodies, healthy foods have changed over time, right? Scientifically, we decide how science works. We decide what gets studied, how to interpret results, how much it matters, what to value, right? So we're making it up. It's not fiction, it's not arbitrary, right? But there's a construction, a social construction about how we think about health. That will be totally obvious, I hope, by the end of the class. Number two, identify continuities and ruptures and how expertise has changed over time. You can't talk about diet and health without talking about expertise. I mentioned that a second ago in terms of the course title. We're looking over time how different people in different eras have had to construct expertise. And that gives us an idea about how we do it now. It's awfully hard to see when we're immersed in our own day-to-day lives, how people construct expertise. But when you look back, this is the view from the plane. When you look back, you can see how it's happened elsewhere. You can get a sense of how it might be happening now. You're just much more critically aware of what's going on. Number three, critically situate modern dietary advice in broad historical context. The past does not tell us how to be healthy. Okay. I mean, it tells us how to be healthy at that time. Whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant. We can see the change. We can see how morals and values and cultural objectives get funneled into dietary advice. You know, eating is a very ubiquitous thing. So we can better understand dietary advice, the ideas about health, the ideas about medicine. We can understand those much better when we can put them in broad historical context. We're not going to get correct ideas about how to eat from the past, right? There's no like hidden ancient knowledge kind of thing that we're unearthing by looking, but it helps us way better understand the contemporary world of diet and health. I want to highlight you're welcome here, that there's no prerequisites. There's no, I don't assume you know anything about the history of medicine or diet. I don't assume you've taken a history class. The class is totally doable. Like I think it should be a little bit of a challenge. Upper level humanities class should be challenging. That's what college is for. But you can do this. You can get whatever grade you want, and I'm here to help you get whatever grade you want. If you need more help, ask. I'm here. I grade primarily on effort. If you're making a legitimate effort to do the work, do it yourself, not use AI to do it, and you're trying to learn, and you show me that you're trying to learn, you're going to get an A. No problem. Just make sure you're doing the work, make sure you're putting in that effort. Some days maybe a little less, some days a little more. I get it. But that consistent effort throughout the next 4 weeks, that's how you do well. Just show me you're doing that. Course readings, we use a tool called Zotero to organize and provide access to all the readings for the course. Everything you need is in this tool. It's a platform, zotero.org. You go, you create an account, you log in, you request to join the library. All the directions are on the syllabus, just follow those. I say yes when I get the email, and then you're in, you have access to all the readings. Okay, it's super simple. Thousands of students have done this. It's no problem. Just make sure you're following the directions carefully. If you don't follow the directions, you don't have access to the readings. Don't be the one person that every summer emails me in week 3 and is like, I'm really having trouble finding the readings. They're all in Zotero. They're all set up waiting for you. Okay, just follow the directions. It takes longer to explain it than just to do it. So I just let you follow the directions on your own. Course workflow, you can see that basically you have one thing due every day. They're not big, low stakes, just in aggregate. That's the course. I want to highlight this. It's in a blue box. It means, information I want to call out to you. Familiarity over mastery. You can't read every word. You can't understand every idea that's in the readings. There's not a ton of reading. I think it's totally average for an upper level humanities class, but they're dense. I mean, I read these things like, all the time, and I'm still finding new things. Like there's just way too much in it to take away all at once. So do your best to take away something, right? Find what's interesting. Read stuff that seems more appealing to you. Ignore the stuff that doesn't seem as interesting, right? There's no set thing you're supposed to learn. We're not learning these because you're supposed to memorize information. What I want you to do is be familiar with the different sources that we use. So I want you to know the tone, like how is the author writing? What kind of argument are they making? What kind of evidence are they using? Are they being convincing? Do they make you care about it? Do you see how it fits in the class? Those are the kinds of questions I want you to think about. When you think about those and you write them in your daily reflection, it's all good. You just show me you're being familiar, show me you're putting in an effort, and we'll all be good. Everything's due at midnight, the day it's listed on the syllabus. The assignment's open for 2 days. Actually, you lose 1 letter grade per day. I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but I've had classes where I didn't have any deadline. So it's just like, just do it when you can. And everybody puts it off. And then everyone's like panicking at the end. It's super stressful. I think people need deadlines. I certainly need deadlines or things just get procrastinated. So not trying to be mean, but you got 2 days, right? It's much better to turn it in a day late and get a B, right, than to not turn it in at all, right? It's a huge difference. So even if you miss a due date, get it in as soon as you can. But we got to keep moving along. Class goes too fast to let things slide. Assignments and grading, you'll see that there's links to the assignments here. The only thing I want to highlight here is notice the percents in the grade. For instance, it's a little easier than normal. 88 to 89. Normally that's a B plus, right? But for us, it's an A minus. And that's because it's a fast course. Things happen. You might not be able to spend some time on an assignment, get a slightly lower grade. Maybe you got graded a little harshly, inadvertently one time. I do not want anyone nitpicking about grades. Life is too short. So I just give you a bunch of points. We don't really have points in this class, but give you a cushion here so that all that little nitpicking stuff doesn't need to happen. Okay. We have a grader for the class, Teresa. She's amazing history grad student. She's fantastic. Don't bother her with sort of nitpicky stuff unless there's a serious issue. Okay. If you're always getting lower than you think you should, there's a calibration issue. So get in touch. Let's figure it out. If you work your butt off, you're really proud of an assignment you turn in. I mean, these are not long, but like, and then you get a D and something's wrong. Okay. Somebody made a mistake. There's a miscommunication. Somebody hit the wrong button, whatever. Let's get that sorted out. Okay. But otherwise, no nitpicking, please. The cushion's built in here. You should get whatever grade you want in this class. I'm here to help you do that. No problem. Last thing I want to talk about, AI policy. Everybody needs one now. I think AI is awesome. I use it every day, hours a day. It's part of my research. How do you do history research in a trustworthy way with AI? I think it's super fun. I do all kinds of coding projects. I use it all the time for a ton of things. But you have to learn to think too. You can't use it all the time. And when you shortcut the thinking exercises that we do in a class like this or any class, you're really compromising your own ability to sort of work outside of this crutch. Okay, so it's good to use at times, but don't do the assignments with AI. Okay, that's like bringing a forklift into the weight room, right? The point isn't to make the weights go up and down, it's to do the work so that you can do better stuff later. Okay, that's what we're doing. This class is the intellectual weight room. Okay, don't cheat it. Some of the assignments we do are AI assignment. Part of the assignment is to use AI to do different things. Okay, that's all written out on the syllabus. I'll talk more about that when we get closer to those. But if it's not an AI assignment, please do not use AI to generate the text, right? I want you to come up with your own reading reflections. The reflections are not asking you to summarize or do things that AI is good at. It's asking you to tell me your opinion. What quote stands out to you? What concept were you not expecting? Where did you get confused? What did you think was interesting? What's something you might want to tell somebody about? It's just your opinion about it. And in the process of explaining kind of your familiarity of the reading, you'll tell me you're putting in the work, right? That's kind of a byproduct of it. So you don't really need AI for any of this. So please do not draft your responses with AI. If you if you draft something, you draft a reading response and you want AI to proofread it, check for typos, smooth out a sentence, you can interrogate it. Say, am I leaving anything out? What else might I say? If you want to sort of interact with your thing that you write, great. That's a great use of AI because you're doing that intellectual work of creating it. And that's super important. You have to be able to not use AI for every little thought. Okay. So please, one rule for the class I want to be real clear about, you have to differentiate your work from AI, right? Even if you don't use AI, but it sounds like it, you need to do it again. Okay. That's the way we just make sure we're all sounding human. I think because AI is saturating all the stuff that we see and read, and sure it's all over social media. I don't really use social media, but I'm sure it's everywhere. The human writing is actually going to be really valuable, right? So let's take the opportunity to practice that. These are low stakes, short assignments, should be the easiest possible stuff you can do. Let's flip over to the schedule page. Every week is kind of the same. Every day is kind of the same. I know it's a little different than the Canvas syllabus or other syllabi you've had, but the idea is that it's consistent. So every day you kind of know what to look for. There's a week overview like this for the most part. There's a day header. There's a little message about the day. And then there's links to stuff you need to do or watch or read. Okay. Course overview video. Hello. Defining healthy videos. That's the next thing you'll watch. If there's a red box, there's something you have to do. I already mentioned the syllabus quiz. You need to take the syllabus quiz by midnight tonight. Again, not really a test. So that should be an easy A+. Don't miss points on the syllabus quiz. Tuesday, next thing, there's another video for that day, introduce a topic, just a couple of minutes. And then there's a thing to read. Notice there's no link here. That means it's in the Zotero library, right? The PDF is waiting for you. When you want to get it, make sure you're logged in. Make sure you're a member of the library. If you haven't applied, you're definitely not a member of the library. So follow the directions and you'll all be good. Okay. There's a description of kind of how the day fits into the course. I hope you read these, right? There's no test on, whether you're reading the syllabus, but they're my attempt to kind of glue everything together. So I think things will kind of flow a little bit better if you're doing that. Reading reflection. There's a reading reflection guidelines page. There's a page for every assignment, as I mentioned. This kind of tells you kind of what I'm looking for and how to do it. I won't go over it now because it's pretty straightforward. Here's the things I want you to think about and write about in your reflection. You don't have to answer every question literally, okay? But this is the kind of stuff I want you to be writing about. If you have something else that you're really excited about and you want to share that, go for it, okay? You should show me you're putting in some work to learn the course material. And however you do that is kind of irrelevant. These are some things that I think will help you do that. Some questions I think are fun to think about. All right. And you can go on and see it. That's the schedule page. Okay, I think I'm back to full size. I think that's it. That's the syllabus. That's the class. Those are the main themes, student learning outcomes. I think we covered everything. You can tell I'm excited. I talk too fast. Sorry about that. I hope you enjoy the class. See you next time.